What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are recapping the Kansas City Chiefs getting the win at home at Arrowhead Stadium against the Washington Redskins 29-20, and boy, was this a great game to watch. I didn't catch all of it. I did start watching, I believe, at the beginning of the second quarter. I didn't get home until the beginning of the second quarter, so I was able to watch from there. But I know that Kansas City was down at one point, 7-0. I believe it was a touchdown to Kirk Cousins, and the momentum started for the Redskins. And for the most part, Washington Redskins kind of had this game as far as the momentum went. They were moving down the field on offense. They were stopping Kansas City's defense and holding Kareem Hunt from what they could, hold him for. I mean, you can only hold Kareem Hunt for so many yards, but they were getting some 3-and-outs. They were getting some good stops, the Redskins defense, and I don't think anybody's thought, even the Redskins fans, that the defense would play as well as they have so far this season. You're talking about stopping the Oakland defense, for the Oakland offense for only 10 points on Sunday Night Football. And then when you're facing the Rams have been scoring points. They're the number one ranked offense as far as scoring right now, and they only scored 20 against the Redskins. And I believe against the Eagles, I think offensively they scored like 26 points or something like that, 27 points or something like that. And I mean that they've got a pretty solid defense. And this game, their defense absolutely got obliterated. They played well for who was on the field late in the game. Josh Norman went down. He wound up being out with a rib injury, and according to Jay Gruden, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. So that's a big loss for the Washington Redskins, who are already dealing with injuries. I believe they lost Trent Murphy for the year in the beginning of the season. They're losing inside linebackers. Zach Brown is getting injured like 3 times a game. I remember in the Redskins game, he went out twice. I think in this game, he went out twice. So you got to watch out for Zach Brown. I know the inside linebacker, Spates, I don't know his first name, but Spates was injured, and he came back in the game. A bunch of guys on that Redskins defense. I know Nicholson was injured. He came back in the game, but they were on and off. A lot of people on that Redskins defense that were injured, and it was just the defense for the most part. I know Trent Williams, their Pro Bowl left tackle for the Redskins, did come out, but I think he came back in. He's just fine. So, yeah, the Redskins barely got out this game alive. Unfortunately, they come out with the loss, but it is what it is. And with the Redskins, in the predictions video, I was saying, if they compete with the Kansas City Chiefs like I predicted they would, then we're going to have to take the Redskins seriously. The Redskins could be a threat in the NFC East. If not, they're going to be contending for a wild card spot for the NFC. Because with the Giants right now, the Giants are struggling. They're not going to be able to compete for a wild card. They could jump ahead of Dallas, who are struggling right now as far as defensively. That's pretty much the reason why they're losing games right now. So the Redskins have an opportunity. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it here, and it's understandable. The Kansas City Chiefs right now are arguably the best team in the NFL. I certainly believe that they are the best team in the NFL. Their offense doesn't have too many great pieces on there, but you have Kareem Hunt, who is your cornerstone of that offense. And then, you got some receivers here and there. You got the bad man and Travis Kelce, who is probably the best tight end in football. But other than that, their offense, and they got Alex Smith at quarterback, who's playing great, don't get me wrong, but when you hear Alex Smith, you don't really hear of the top 5 quarterback. And then they got a shaky offensive line. You're talking about an offensive line that allowed 12 sacks so far in this game before the game started. I don't know how much times Alex Smith was sacked, but it was a pretty decent amount of times. So the offensive line struggles as far as pass protection goes, but opening holes for Kareem Hunt. And what I'm trying to get at is they're doing a lot with not the best roster in the NFL, but they're still the only undefeated team in the NFL right now. So props goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. And props goes to the Washington Redskins. They stuck in this game. It was tooth and nail. They fought all the way down to the fourth quarter in the final seconds of the game. and it was great to watch. Great game to watch. I know that, like I said, it was 10-0 in Washington's favor, and then the momentum starts to shift a little bit, and Kansas City starts to gain the lead. And then fast forward through all of that, and it's 20-17, I believe, and yes, 20-17, and Kirk Cousins has to drive down the field to score. Unfortunately, Josh Doctson, who made some great catches last week against Oakland, one for a touchdown, a complete moss, and one for a touchdown. I believe it was on Emerson. I don't know. Who cares? But Josh Doctson made a great catch on Oakland. He tried that here late in the game to go up by a touchdown I believe go up 24-17 on the Kansas City Chiefs. He comes down with the ball but cannot hold on to the ball. He was famous for doing these kind of catches in TCU. He was drafted to the Washington Redskins with their first round pick. And he was injured last year. He comes back, and he's having a great year so far, Josh Doctson is. He's not their number one target, no, but he's definitely there to make plays for the Washington Redskins. And he tried to here, and he was bummed out that he couldn't make this catch. But he almost came down with it, and it popped out as he hit the ground, and it was an incomplete pass. And then, despite Kirk Cousins' efforts of rushing the ball three straight times, on that drive to lead down the field. Literally, Kirk Cousins did all the work going down the field. They get nothing but a field goal, tying it up 20-20. And with about 47 seconds left and 2 timeouts, the Kansas City Chiefs have an opportunity to go up and gain the lead in this game with only 47 seconds left. Now, that's a lot of time, but you never know. A turnover could happen, penalties could slow you down, stuff like that. But the Kansas City offense were not phased. They came out, a great catch by Albert Wilson. And I'm talking about a great catch. And Albert Wilson, I've been talking about Albert Wilson, man. You think about it, in week 1, he only had like 40-something yards, 5 receptions, but he was fighting for some extra yards, and he was getting catches in critical moments. You're talking about third down plays, third and long, third and shorts. Anytime that Alex Smith needed a play from somebody that's not a big name, like Kareem Hunt, like Travis Kelce, and you could arguably say Chris Conley, Albert Wilson was there to make the play, and he was definitely there within the final seconds of the game, making a great catch on a crossing route. Alex Smith scrambles out the pocket, finds Albert Wilson, and Albert Wilson almost dropped his pass. It was bobbled. He held on to it, ran upfield, and was completely leveled, but held on to the ball and was tackled out of bounds. And I believe he was tackled out of bounds all the way, so the clock did stop. And then you move down the field, and then a great pass down the middle to Chris Conley, who was tackled but almost fumbled. It almost looked like a fumble as Chris Conley was tackled. He was brung from one side of the defender to the other while the defender was on the ground. It could have been overturned, though. It was called a catch. It could have been overturned, though, because it did look like his arm did let go of the football before his knee hit the ground, but the referee, who was part of the announcing staff, the commentating staff with Monday Night ESPN and Monday Night Football and stuff like that, he said that Chris Conley's butt did touch the ground before he was turned over by the defender, and they replayed that, and it was confirmed. So as the referee comes out to confirm the call, the play is confirmed, and first down, Kansas City, and they use a timeout. I don't know why Andy Reid used this timeout. I think it was because if they review the call, there's a 10-second runoff, and they have to opt to get the use the timeout. I think that's how it works. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if not, I don't know why Andy Reid didn't call it. Why Andy Reid did call a timeout. They could have used an extra one, so they could run the ball further and get in a better field position to kick a field goal. But that's what they had to do. They had to, with 27 seconds left, Andy Reid called the timeout as they reviewed the call. It was confirmed. And what the Kansas City offense did later on is just, get in field position. for on the left hash, the right hash actually. And right there, Harrison Butker, I believe his name is. He was a kicker who was competing with Graham Gano in the preseason and actually had a good competition with Graham Gano in the preseason. That's why a lot of people were talking about this kicker, Harrison Butker, early on in the season as a kicker that may be signed to another team should a team need a kicker. And that team was the Kansas City Chiefs. So nobody really heard of him. I heard of him in the preseason when he was kicking field goals in the preseason. But he missed a field goal early on. I think it was a 46-yard field goal. He missed that, but he was 3 for 3 after that. So I think the Kansas City offense and Andy Reid was pretty confident that they would get it done, and they do. He kicks a field goal, goes up 23-20, and that's pretty much the game. With 4 seconds left, Harrison Butker kicks it off, and to touch it back for the Washington Redskins. They go to try to make a play, try to get a touchdown. Kirk Cousins snaps the ball and throws it to the left sideline to Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder tries to throw it back, basically, little flea flicker, a little lateral to Kirk Cousins' back. But Kirk Cousins is not a wide receiver in no way, shape, or form, so he couldn't come up with the ball. It was fumbled. Kirk Cousins trying to pick up the ball. He gives it to Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson barely had the hold of the ball. And then it was picked up by Justin Houston. And Justin Houston just dances into the end zone, which is, not the best sportsmanship you could show. But, it's a celebration of you just won the game. So, a good job by Justin Houston there, picking up the fumble and going on for the score. And unfortunately, screwing my spread up because I had Washington covering the spread +7. And it would have been that. But Justin Houston just had the score, and that was a bad beat according to Scott Van Pelt. It was a bad beat for this game as I had Washington +7. So we go on to the stats. Kirk Cousins had himself a day. He was, believe it or not, their leading rusher today. They had a tough time running the ball, and it didn't seem like that. It did seem like not Kirk Cousins. The Washington running backs did have their way, with running the ball and getting first downs, but it wasn't very consistent. But as far as yards per carry, they weren't really too bad on yards per carry as a lot of other teams would be. But let's start off with Kirk Cousins here. 14 out of 24, 215 yards. And 2 touchdowns, no picks, had a quarterback rating of 115.8. How about that? Alex Smith, 27 of 37, 293 yards. These are stats you don't see from Alex Smith, and he's having a great year with Kareem Hunt at running back. And then 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked 4 times for 32 yards. Kirk Cousins was sacked a total of 0 times. Justin Houston could not get there. Chris Jones could not get there. All of these great Kansas City Chiefs pass rushers could not get there. I believe Tamba Hali was still playing too. Could not get there. So the Redskins offensive line did hold up very, very well. Kirk Cousins had a lot of time to throw, especially when he was scrambling. He was virtually untouched. Going back into the final drive of the game where Kirk Cousins literally just had so much space there because nobody really thinks Kirk Cousins is gonna run. But he has wheels on him. He's a pocket passer but can run just like an Aaron Rodgers. And he ran with great speed 3 times in a row. And, the defensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs could not get to him because that Washington Redskins offensive line held that defense in check and protected Kirk Cousins fairly well, I might add. So, going on to the rushing, Kirk Cousins, 7 carries, 38 yards, and a 5.4 yards per carry. So he was their lead back this game. Samaje Perine up next, 6 carries, 27 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Chris Thompson, who I say is the best scat back in the league, and I think he is, 6 carries, 23 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. And Rob Kelly, who probably would have had more yards in this game, but again, just like in the Rams game, he left early in the Rams game with an injury. He leaves again with an injury. Hopefully it's not the same injury. He re-aggravated something, but I didn't really look into it, but hopefully Rob Kelly is all right. He's probably I would say he's their best back. He is their starter, but he is their best back they've got. And he only had 7 carries for 23 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. He could have had a lot more, I would imagine. But, the Washington Redskins were held in check as far as running the ball. Kareem Hunt, on the other hand, for the Kansas City Chiefs, Kareem Hunt, 21 carries, 101 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, no rushing touchdowns, but that's okay. 101 yards, great job there. He would have had 5 yards per carry had he not just run that ball at the end of the game. He would have had 20 carries for 103 yards. That would have been over 5 yards a carry and some change. So Alex Smith had another. Both these quarterbacks really ran the ball. Alex Smith had more yardage, though, on the same amount of carries. 7 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. A great read. I don't know who was that completely whiffed that. I think it was Junior Gillette. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was Junior Gillette that thought Kareem Hunt would get the ball, but I mean, he was right next to Alex Smith. Alex Smith, fearless, ran right by him for a touchdown, and a great block there by Travis Kelce as well on the edge. And Albert Wilson carried the ball. That's pretty much it. Charkandrick West carried the ball 1 time for 2 yards. I mean, that was it. Kareem Hunt and Alex Smith was pretty much that whole rushing offense. We go on to the receiving game. Vernon Davis. I mean, this guy used to be a Pro Bowler. He was known as one of the best tight ends in the game right now, and he came out and showed why everybody should still be believing in Vernon Davis. 2 receptions, 89 yards. 1 almost went to the house. It was just a straight vertical down the stretch for Vernon Davis in the slot down the seam, and whoop-de-whopping defenders here and there almost took it to the house, but was later tackled, and a great play by Vernon Davis. Terrell Pryor had 3 receptions for 70 yards. He's having a great year, the former quarterback out of Ohio State. He had a touchdown early on in this game to go up 7-0. Josh Doxson had 2 receptions for 27 yards. Could have had another reception for a touchdown, but unfortunately couldn't come down with the ball. Ryan Grant had a great touchdown, a slant on the great Marcus Peters, who's one of my favorite cornerbacks in the game right now. Marcus Peters, talking about one of the best man-to-man corners you could ask for, and Ryan Grant ran a great slant route. The play action really got the Kansas City Chiefs, so there was no inside linebackers to give Marcus Peters any help, and Marcus Peters was shading outside. It was an inside route, and Ryan Grant winds up catching the ball. Marcus Peters was pissed after that. He threw his helmet on the ground after that touchdown. And Jordan Reed had 3 receptions for 21 yards. He almost fumbled the game. He almost costed the Redskins the game. Not that they won the game, but he almost really costed them the game. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce leads the way. Who else would it be? No other receiver really is going to match Travis Kelce in the receiving game right now. Talking about 7 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. A great touchdown, what might I add. Albert Wilson, 4 receptions, 63 yards. A great 37-yard grab to help them kick the game-winning field goal. Tyreek Hill with 5 receptions, 35 yards. Charkandrick West, 5 for 33. Chris Conley, 2 for 31. And Kareem Hunt, 4 for 20. So Alex Smith was, being the game manager and just throwing it off, dinking and dunking. But he did a great job. We move on. Okay, sorry about that. Zach Brown was leading the team in tackles for the Washington Redskins. 9 tackles in total. He came out the game about once or twice. So you got to watch the Redskins have to watch Zach Brown. Good thing they're on a bye. They can get healthy. A lot of defensive players were banged up. Trent Williams on the offense was banged up. And Rob Kelly also was banged up. So, good thing they have the bye week to help them get healthy and move on in the season. Frank Zombo, I don't know who you are, but you had 5 tackles leading the Kansas City Chiefs. And, we go on to the sacks for the Washington Redskins. Matt Ioannidis, the, I believe, 3rd-round pick out of Temple had a sack and actually played a very good game, along with Terrell McClain. He had a sack. DJ Swearinger, who's really coming on this year, had a sack, but did get completely exposed by Kareem Hunt as he tried to dive for his legs, and Kareem Hunt completely jumped right over him. It was pretty great to watch. Then we've got Preston Smith got a sack, and I believe that is all the names right there. And then no sacks for the Kansas City defense, which is pretty rare, but the defense still played a good game against a pretty decent, a very unexpected Redskins offense, but proving to be very good so far this year. So moving on, we have the Kansas City Chiefs next week going against the Houston Texans. Now Houston is a weird team because they got Deshaun Watson. They barely squeaked out a win against Cincinnati. They whooped Tennessee. They completely whooped Tennessee. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1 completely whooped Houston. And then Houston almost beats the New England Patriots on the road at Gillette Stadium. And I don't know, this team is very Jekyll and Hyde to me, probably the definition of Jekyll and Hyde that I've ever seen in a while. But Deshaun Watson, he's playing pretty good right now. I don't know how he's going to play against the Kansas City defense. The Kansas City defense can get exposed at times, but they're pretty consistent. They can rush the passer as well. So we'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson there. I'm not ready to say that Houston will win the game necessarily. I think Kansas City is due for a trap game. This may be the game where Houston, comes out and wins and kind of identifies themselves as a playoff contending team, because that's what they've been doing so far. Sure, they lost to the New England Patriots, but they played a great game against them. If it wasn't for Brandon Cooks in the final seconds, they would have came out with the win there. So we'll see what happens with the Houston versus Kansas City game. And these two teams have gone at it a couple of times, including in the playoffs. Kansas City completely dominates Houston in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. Then the Washington Redskins, they're on a bye. Hopefully they get healthy. You want Rob Kelly to get healthy. You want your best offensive lineman in Trent Williams, who's a great tackle in this league. You want him to get healthy. You want Zach Brown to stay healthy. You want a lot of guys on this defense to get healthy. You want Josh Brown to get healthy. He's not going to come back in a couple of weeks, but you have that bye week to kind of prolong that that injury for him. He'll come back sooner because they won't be playing the game next week. So he has 2 weeks to rest up. So that'll be one less game he won't be playing in. So that is it for the recap, you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm sorry I didn't recap all these games. Maybe if you guys want, I'll recap all the games. But I'm trying to get myself on a better schedule. I would have recapped all the games, but I went to the Tampa Bay versus the Giants game, so I couldn't. I was in Tampa. So next week, definitely back on schedule with these recaps, and maybe even more videos in the midweek too. Just random videos about in the NFL, create discussion with you guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.